And welcome on in for another edition of the Limitless Leadership Lounge. I'm John Gehring, as always, joined by Dr. Renuma Kareem and Coach Jim Johnson for a tri-generational conversation just for you, the emerging leader. We're excited to have a special guest along with us today as well. From the Great Peach State down in the South, Dan Garcia, who's a leader in the construction industry. So we will be talking with Dan today to build up some of our own leadership ideals and to discuss more about Dan and introduce him and get the podcast going today. Coach, take it away. I know you know Dan.
Yes, it's a pleasure, Dan, to have you today. I had the pleasure to speak for Dan's company called C.W. Matthews back a few years ago and had a wonderful experience down there. And I was really impressed with his leadership and his leadership team. And so we're really honored to have you today, Dan. And we mentioned before going on camera here that it's been a good year for Georgia with the Atlanta Braves winning their World Series for the first time in quite a while. And then the Georgia Bulldogs, although you did slip something out that now your daughter goes to University of Alabama. So I don't know how well that went, but congratulations for a great start. And Dan has been the president of C.W. Matthews since 2015. And he's been in various leadership roles before that. And before I ask the first question, Dan, I just want to welcome you to our podcast, The Limitless Leadership Lounge.
Thank you, Coach. I really appreciate the opportunity. Dr. Kareem and Jonathan, just glad to be with you. I really enjoyed spending some time with Coach Johnson here a few years ago. Like you said, you spoke to our group and we've stayed connected since then. Love the story, love everything that you shared with us and stand for. And I'm just glad to be part of this call today.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Well, thank you. We're looking forward to it. So Dan, you know what, as we mentioned before we went on live here, that our focus is we really want to help young and emerging leaders. So we want to take you back a little bit in your journey. So if you could take us back and share a little bit about when you started in your journey, once you got into the working world, if you share a little bit about that. And then also we'd like to know, because, you know, trying to help young and emerging leaders, when you got into some leadership positions, what was maybe one major challenge you got initially and then how you overcame it?
Okay, thanks, Coach. Yes, so, you know, I've traveled a good bit when I first got out of school with one company prior to joining C.W. Matthews. I was with them for 17 years. So moved around a good bit and at an early age, was just very blessed, got the opportunity to start leading groups of people. So obviously, definitely some challenges. You know, there's some things you learn in school, then there's some things you learn through the School of Hard Knocks. So definitely have made plenty of errors, but I would say, you know, passion and attitude win just about every time when it comes to leadership. So I would say that was kind of the key early on. As a young leader, I was placed in charge over a division at the age of 28, and you know, it was challenging. It was challenging at times, leading people that in age, you know, were older, that had more experience. But I've always leaned on surrounding myself with good people. I definitely believe that's key. And you know, as far as challenges, I think at first, at a young age, I was maybe trying to. I was concerned with those tough conversations that you might have to have at times, especially again if it's somebody more experienced than you or somebody that's older than you, and probably struggle with a little bit of that early on in my career. But I've had some great mentors through my career, which have been just so beneficial to me. Starting with my father, mom and dad were just great people. My dad was just a great mentor. But then even in the business world, I've had the same. So kind of finally the light went off after some discussions with them that I was struggling with that. And it was this idea that, hey, if somebody is not performing or, the best way to do is just discuss it, be upfront, make sure that there's a clear direction, a clear understanding of where we need to maybe make some changes, how I can help them accomplish that. And then if after some period of time that person or that individual is not willing to make the change, or maybe the industry they're in is not, it's not the right fit for them, then it's not this pressure that I felt early on that I was the one impacting their life or their career, but I had given them that opportunity to maybe make those changes. And therefore, if it didn't work out, it was more on them than kind of a decision that I was making impacting their life. And kind of when that light bulb went off as far as that, the reality is those events have not happened very frequently. I've been so fortunate to work with so many great people in our industry. I just absolutely love our industry. It's made of a lot of great men and women. So that's not happened a lot, but it's definitely something that I learned throughout the years.
Actually, I want to just follow up one question before we tag team you with Dr. Kareem and John. You brought up mentors, and I know, for a young leader, I think that's something extremely valuable. My question to you is, how do you find a mentor, and what do you look for in a mentor?
Early on in the career, my career was easier to find the mentors. Probably it was somebody within the company, at least that was for me. It still is today with the owner of our company. But obviously, as you start moving into some additional roles and you have greater responsibilities, then you might have less people in your organization to come to. So then you just look for people that make you better. I mean, it can be within the organization, but definitely outside is who's challenging you, not only professional, but to be a better father, to be just a better person in your community, and also within the realm of your profession. So it's just I think there's a lot of great people out there willing to do that. Sometimes you have to ask and reach and ask, hey, would you be willing to spend some time with me? Would you be willing to grab coffee and let me bounce some ideas off of you? So that's really how I've done it, how I found the mentors in my life. But at the same time, that's a lot of times how I'm hopefully able to pay it forward to others by doing what those people did for me early on. It's something, probably my favorite part of my job is to be able to work with young men and women. Again, whether within our company or outside of our company, I've been able to have the opportunity to do that as well, and just share some knowledge and maybe share some of the mistakes that I've made so that hopefully they can learn from that.
Right. And you're so right, Mr. Garcia, saying that mentorship is so important to shape us up. And it is often we hear the term that it is who you choose to hang out with, who are
Absolutely.
the people who are giving you that energy, that information to grow. So thank you so much for sharing that piece. And I'm curious because from your bio, I have seen that you came from Venezuela when you were 17. And in this world, globalized world, you must have like workers or team members who are from different parts of the world. So do you think that multicultural perspective, your parents coming from different parts of the world, you working with different people, how important is that multicultural perspective and an aspect of diversity while leading people in this time?
It's key, right? Having a great understanding of different cultures, different goals, different ways of thinking. I mean, that's what I think all around makes us better for where we are. That's why the US is such a great country. We got this melting pot of all these different cultures, different ideas, different people. So it's another thing that I think makes us successful when we're able to get, again, different ideas from different people. For us in our industry, I get just a great opportunity to work with some individuals that are from other countries. In that regard, because I grew up speaking Spanish, we have several or a considerable amount of Hispanic workers. working at CW Matthews. I just love, going out to the project site and just having the opportunity to talk to them in their native language, my native language. And you just meet some amazing people by being willing to kind of get outside the box. And again, it's just probably one of the things that I enjoy the most, being around just people from diverse backgrounds is something that we've tried to instill in our own children by traveling to different places and getting, teaching them about different cultures and faiths and just walks of life. It's what makes this world the great place that it is.
True.
Absolutely. We're talking with Dan Garcia from CW Matthews Contracting. And Dan, we've all noticed, and I've noticed from our conversation so far here, from reading about you as well before, that you're just a good man. You're just very humble. You're just very kind. You prioritize your family. And I'm curious where that comes from exactly, especially the humility, because I think that's so important. We've talked about that in the past. Just last week, we were talking about the importance of humility as a leader, especially you're a leader of a company, who makes over $500 million of revenue annually. I mean, that's a big deal. Yet you say the most rewarding part of your professional experience is paying it forward. So you talked about your parents earlier. What other sources does that humility that you have come from?
Thanks, Jonathan. I mean, definitely faith plays a huge role in my life. That's very important to me. It was instilled by my parents at an early age. And just this idea, right, that at the end of the day, we build some awesome projects, for example, great roads and bridges and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, really, nobody's going to remember you for any of that. The impact that we make on others is what the only legacy that we can really leave behind. So, again, it comes from my family, from my parents, from my siblings. We just have, we were just taught at an early age, we treat everybody with respect. It doesn't matter who the person is. And, kind of that golden rule, right? Just, treating others like we want to be treated. So I certainly believe in that. I hope that, my biggest fear would be that my actions would not reflect those words, and just kind of work on that all the time. Again, just enjoy people of different backgrounds. And like I said, different, surrounding myself with great people that are smarter than me, it's what makes me a better leader. It's what helps me be a better professional, but also a better family member, and again, better parent or son, or whatever the case may be. So I would say, again, that comes from my faith and probably my parents at a very early age.
Interesting. And just to follow up on that then, Dan, how would you debunk this idea that, we see in culture oftentimes that stepping on others, that, pushing others to the side and being that leader and climbing to the top, making sacrifices, not being that family man? How would you debunk that is the way to the top? And how is it that you ended up at the top in your industry here without stepping on anyone else and with still being that family man and having that as your top priority?
I think, we've all might have seen somebody or heard of somebody that's maybe moved over through an organization, or maybe even somebody called them a leader, but that's short term. That doesn't last long. I think people that lead that way, it works maybe for short periods of time. It works in maybe a few circumstances, but at the end of the day, the only way I feel like you can build trust with your team, with your family, is just by having integrity and being honest. And again, right, it's kind of what I was saying earlier, is at the end of the day, what legacy will we leave, especially talking about young people. I mean, there's no greater satisfaction, again, when I see one of our skilled laborers become a a foreman or a superintendent, or see somebody move into an executive level that, maybe you just played a small part in influencing that. So it helps them professionally, but then in turn, it helps them, maybe impact their lives and their children's lives by giving people certain opportunities. I mean, it's what I love about the story of J-Mac, right? Coach Johnson giving him that opportunity, but also knowing his gifts, right? It didn't come the first day. It's kind of knowing what everybody's gifts are, but then also giving people an opportunity, and then they get this great opportunity to shine and be known to the world. And I mean, what greater satisfaction than that? So, hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely. John. Yeah. Shine the light on others. Yeah.
Hey, Dan, so, you talked a little bit about how different people, move up in your company. What do you look for? What would be some characteristics for someone that you would consider to move into a leadership position?
I have a sign in my office that talks about attitude, that 90% of how you impact and move up and become better is having just that positive attitude. Obviously, skills and the technical part is important, but it'll never surpass somebody that's passionate, that's willing to learn. And when I talk about learning, I'm not only talking about education. I certainly believe education is important, but I know plenty of great leaders in our group that don't have a college education, right? It's more about being willing to learn and ask others for some insight. So I'm looking for that person. Number one is just that positive attitude, but also that passion about, not knowledge is great. Again, the technical ability, having the capabilities and the aptitude to learn are very important. But I will take somebody with a great work ethic, attitude, passion for what they do over the skill level any day.
And this is so perfect. We are talking about the humility, the attitude. These are some core component of leadership. And another leadership core component we often talked about is habit. And I have seen from your bio that you went to Citadel Military School before you went for your engineering degree. So I'm just curious, well, do you think that the military school gave you some idea of discipline and care about others? Because Simon Sinek mentioned, while in corporate sector, people would like to step on each other to go top. In military service, people sacrifice themselves for their brothers and brothers. So do you think that somehow your schooling helped you to shape up some of your habits? And if you could shed light on some of the disciplines and habits that you have taken inside you to build your leadership skill?
Sure. So yeah, I was fortunate. One of my brothers attended the Citadel and I followed in his footsteps. So I did not serve in the military. It's a military school. Half of the students go on to serve active military. I've got some friends that are still in the military. Maybe the other 50 just, study while they're there. I got my engineering degree while I was there. But, without a doubt, first of all, I'm huge proponent or have admiration, I should say, for people that serve in the military. But going to the school while it definitely formed a lot of who I am. It was very tough at the beginning. I was coming from another country, and so that first year was a bit tough, but it kind of prepares you. It gives you some basics to what you need to do to be successful in life. Obviously, a lot going on from the military standpoint while you're attending school. The grades weren't the best there that first year when you got somebody. I was more worried about shining shoes and belt buckles and studying. But it did form. I mean, obviously, I'm still to this day, I'm an early riser. I like that early time in the morning to kind of plan and prepare. And without a doubt, that came from that. And of course, just learning to prioritize, there were a lot of demands while you were there. So it wasn't the normal college experience that maybe some may have. I'm kind of glad my parents sent me there. I'm not sure if I would survive elsewhere, but yeah, without a doubt, time management, again, it made you a little bit tough, and, when you got somebody kind of on your ear and giving you a hard time, and kind of prepares you maybe for some of those up and downs that you're going to experience later on in life. So definitely had a huge impact, and meant, like you mentioned, the word brotherhood or camaraderie. I mean, you do form that while you're in a university like that, because you're kind of all wearing the same uniform. There's no, you don't know where the people came from economically, you're kind of all one together. A little bit of what I'm sure at a much greater level, of course, some of our active military experience. So.
True.
Absolutely. We're talking with Dan Garcia from C.W. Matthews Contracting, who has been all over the South, the Citadel there, and then you graduated from Mercer as well. I'm curious, Dan. You're really a leader in this industry, and we don't know as much about this industry. You're the first on this podcast from the construction industry. Now, you also served as the president of the Georgia Asphalt Pavement Association, which I found to be very interesting, because it just shows that you're staying very active in this industry. What kinds of ways do you make sure that you're active and continuing to learn, even at the top right now at C.W. Matthews, serving in other roles and in other areas within the industry, to make sure you stay sharp in this area?
Yeah, no, great question. I definitely stay involved with the Contractors Association here in Georgia. Also at the national level, there's definitely some associations that our companies involved with. A lot of different ways. Again, new technology. I mean, those are areas where I rely on some of our younger generation. I mean, they bring a lot of good ideas from a technology, both in the industry, trying to stay up and read on what's going on. Even social media, that gives you some insight. But from an industry perspective, just try. It's so important, and I think this is great advice for young leaders, is network, right? There's a lot of people with a lot of experience that can kind of show you how it's been done up to this point. So they bring a lot of insight of what has worked for them, or maybe some of the hardships that they encountered. And then at the same time, very open to new emerging leaders that are coming into the company that might have a better way of doing things. So being open to that is very important. Of course, that's how I stay connected as far as the industry. And then other part of my life that I really enjoy is I'm involved with a few nonprofits that both assist the youth or people with addictions. I'm also involved with a nonprofit that helps families and children that have special needs. That was one of the connections. I immediately, the first time I ever again saw the video, JMAC, this was before I knew Jim Johnson. My son is in the autism spectrum, so that's something that's near and dear to my heart. So again, just love meeting people and learning from different, if the day you stop learning, you never move ahead. So that to me, whether it's in our industry or outside, and again, it doesn't have to be from somebody that's got more experience or more tenure. That can come when I go out into our projects, into the field, and talk to our skilled labor. A lot of times the answers come from the people that are actually doing the work every day, because they're the ones that are having to deal with maybe some of the difficulties or challenges that are presented to them.
Yeah. So I love how you have a growth mindset. We've talked about that before, the fixed versus the growth mindset. Yours is clearly one of a learner. Would you attribute that to a lot of what has made you successful here at C.W. Matthews? Or would you say that when you became successful, you realized, oh, I need to be learning? I mean, was it one that led to the other, or is it just a mindset that you continuously have?
No, I think, again, this comes from one of my early mentors when I started working in the industry. He encouraged me, and I think it's what's helped me to, to go beyond my required task or something, my job, right? What is somebody's job? Well, I feel like early on, again, because of that advice, if I got done with one of the tasks that I was performing, I would just go ask questions. I probably drove people nuts early on because I just wanted to know, why does this work this way? Or how does your job impact me and what I do impact you? So, and it was easy on a rainy day to have gone home in a construction world on a rainy day. You mainly, if you can't perform the work, you might, and it's okay. You might, well, instead I would just kind of hang around and go talk to, the plant manager or the shop manager, just kind of know, what is it that you're doing? Teach me, ask questions. And so it's something that, especially for things that are mechanically inclined, because even though I'm in construction, honestly, I'm not the most mechanically inclined, but I was just fascinated by what they did and how they did it. So I've always loved doing that. Of course, once I went to college, and then later on, as I obtained my MBA, it's just, I just love learning. It's just something I think obviously you need to keep doing all the time. And whether it's for your own industry or, again, things outside of the industry, just kind of getting more familiar on different topics, but always, something that you're passionate about. That's why my biggest advice to somebody, is trying to figure out, what should I do? Or what should I study? Again, with having 5 kids, we have that conversation at home. And I always say, forget about the financial part. Obviously is important. I mean, we need to provide for our families, but don't select what you're going to do for the rest of your life based on that side. You have to find something that you really love doing, because then it's fun, right? I love coming to work every day. It's not something that I wake up in the morning and I'm dreading coming in. It's something that I really enjoy. And that's my advice to somebody trying to figure out what they want to do is, hey, whether it's in the trades or whether it is getting an education that eventually will lead to the job, it's just, by all means, try to find something that you're really going to love doing, because you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life.
Hey, Dan, along those lines, because you talked so strongly about, continuing your education. For our listeners, do you have any books that you would, or leadership programs that you've listened to or read that you'd like to recommend?
Sure. I wish I would have more time to read. Is something that I later on in life is now something I really enjoy doing. So I've read a couple of great books here in the last few years. Extreme Ownership is one that I've read. I actually got to hear Jocko speak at a conference, and I was just inspired by it. Then I later on went and read, again, this concept of the military but interesting enough, even then, it's kind of, as a leader, is being willing to get in the trenches and do what others do, but also kind of this concept of keeping it basic, not having a huge ego. And it's all about the team, not about the one individual success. So I really enjoyed reading that. Not long ago, one of our youngest, one of my coworkers shared with me, Simon Sinek's, this idea of why, and that's definitely goes along with my this concept, right, of why we do the things we do every day. I mean, the how and the what are easy when describing is why we do what. And so that book was very powerful. And again, for me, because of my faith being strong, I lean definitely on the Bible as a great leadership book.
Absolutely.
Good choice. And you talk about reading as a very important quality. Now you're in charge of, being a servant leader to a lot of people, and you're likely constantly, Dan, doing that, constantly giving your time and service to others as a leader. Now, what do you do? Because we've talked about this in the past, that the most important part of leadership, you must first lead yourself before you can lead others. What do you do to lead yourself as an individual and make sure that you're taking time for yourself and doing those proper things so that you can be that effective leader for others?
That's a great question, Jonathan. Again, when I have the opportunity to read, that's a great time to again advance on maybe learn something new, like you were asking about earlier. Just trying to take some time. It's so easy to get wrapped in the everyday issues or tasks at work or problems, and you could say that about at home as well, right? With family, there's always somebody going to a softball practice or somebody running here. Our kids are our oldest two are in college, so we're traveling there. But just needing some time. That's why I like being an early riser. I get in the office early and trying to spend some time, at least maybe 30 minutes or so every day, kind of just thinking about the bigger picture and kind of the long-term strategy, because the rest of the day is a lot of times involved in just, again, it can be maybe putting out some fires, so just in the daily routine, but just trying to take that time. And it could, for different people, it might work different ways, where you just set some time aside to kind of, again, just concentrate on the strategy portion, on the longer term. Again, some time maybe in prayer that you can kind of just feed the soul and kind of prepare yourself to have a good day. So for me, it works in the morning. I know for other people, it might work at different times. I really enjoy doing some sports activity. I played tennis for a while. I like to go to the gym, but I kind of fall in this trap that I get busy and I kind of put that aside. So that's kind of one of my goals, is to kind of get back to some of that, because it obviously clears your mind, and you need some of that when you're busy and you got so much going on.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Hey, Dan, just a little twist for you, because I know you mentioned it a while ago and when we were talking to you, but I know it's always a very big topic for leaders, and that is, how do you build trust with your people?
I think the best way to build trust is just to be vulnerable. I mean, I always share with the team we have there is I want them to be upfront and voice their opinions and let's work together. So I think just being open to hear other people's concerns, comments. I'm very much, probably at times it gets me in trouble. I know I've been told that, is I kind of have an open door policy. So if you have something in your mind, come share it with me. I think when people stop sharing with you their concerns or their problems, then you should look at yourself in the mirror and go, hey, why are people not coming and discussing with me maybe some of those challenges or ways that we can work together. But I think more than anything is admitting when you make a mistake. I think that creates that trust, and just, again, being open to new ideas, new ways. There are some items that are that I think you can set for example, integrity and some no-goes that people can't cross the line. Hey, these are the certain things that are not tolerable, again, in a family, in an organization, or that sort of thing. But I'm all about second chances and giving people opportunity. If people are not out there making mistakes and working hard, then you're not advancing. So I know for me, I've learned just as much from the mistakes that I've made than from the successes. So just kind of being open to that, and again, being willing to share with your team, hey, I made a mistake, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or this initiative that we started, maybe we should put a pause on that, and because we didn't think about some of these consequences that it might have, and having that that open conversation, that vulnerability, I think makes you a better leader.
Sure. And I think let's just take a step back, because I have a question pertaining to trust. But first of all, there was a time when Coach Renuma and I would, get on a plane and fly down there to the lovely city of Marietta, Georgia, and we would love that it would be more than 13 degrees. It would be a great time. But now it's a lot different, and I'm not sure how much that's affected the construction industry as much. Of course, it can't totally, because projects still need to go on. But how has that affected you as a leader and that building of trust and especially the vulnerability through virtual meetings, through remote work? Has that had an impact?
It really has, from one perspective in our industry, the last couple of years, obviously a big challenge. From one perspective, we were thankfully able to continue to work. The majority of our workforce works outside. So from that regard, we were very blessed that we could continue to work. But at the same time, all these challenges, just like any other industry, right? We had, especially those first few weeks and months, we didn't have the answers, right? And I think as we started having meetings in Zoom and doing all these video conferences, which for our industry was non-existent prior to this point. We don't have salespeople that are on Zoom calls with somebody in another state. All of our work is happening right here. So now all of a sudden we're not seeing people face to face, even our own skilled workers and our folks in the construction. Now you're meeting by Zoom, and you have all these questions about, COVID and how do we deal with it? And we had teams that ride together to the projects and vehicles. How do you separate? So as all that was going on, kind of to my point, we didn't have the answer. I don't know that many people, even the experts, had the answers, but we only didn't. So again, it was just saying that, hey, we're going to take this day by day. We're going to make the best decisions in the interest of the people to make sure they stay safe. They continue to work, because obviously one of the concerns were people saying, hey, am I going to lose my job? Are we not going to be able to, kind of calming everybody down, but also kind of, as you well know, things were changing every other week on what we should do and how we should protect our employees. So we would have many of these calls. We had several calls with all of our supervisory staff, which was 300 or so people, and kind of taking these questions of, hey, what do we do? And sometimes we have the answers, but sometimes the answer is, hey, I don't know, but we're going to figure this together. So I think that's how you build trust and how people, again, some of the best ideas that we received during that time were from some of our skilled labor or foreman positions that were saying, hey, this is what we're dealing with. Have y'all thought about this? And here we had spent hours and hours thinking about some other strategy. You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, that's a much better idea, and kind of pivoting and going in that direction. And that's still the case till today. Again, we've been fortunate that we've been able to work really through these times, but it's been definitely a challenge as far as coming up with what the right answer is, and kind of how do you in an industry where it's very much face-to-face, hand-on, how do you maintain that connection with the employees where they still feel like you care for them and that they're important to your success, really showing that when you're seeing somebody over a screen.
Yeah, and I think you're so right that influence comes from caring. Everybody can lead with power, but influencing people, that is what makes a difference. And in your field, it's complex. It's a complex responsibility in the field of construction industry. So I was wondering, what are like top 2 or 3 leadership skills you feel a leader, especially in this complex industry, would need to have that motivation or inspire the workers because you have to set deadlines, you have to work in budget. So all those things are very demanding tasks. So there are so many people who are interested in construction, and there are emerging leaders in this field. So what would be some of your top 3 advices to those leaders who are interested in this field to lead?
Sure, Dr. Karim. So again, a little bit going back, not trying to repeat myself, but again, passion about what they do, right? in this industry, most of the time what you're going to find is people that are just have huge pride on building these projects and building. I mean, it's a great industry in that you can turn around and see what you built, what you accomplished that day. So from that part, it's very rewarding, but it's also very challenging. I mean, in the summer months, Georgia, I mean, if you're in an asphalt paving crew, it's, you know, the asphalt's 300 degrees, it's 100 degrees outside, working nights and weekends. So it's not for everybody.
Right.
But if you're passionate about seeing something built and, you know, so again, going back to that passion, that you got to love what you do. It's hard to be in the middle in construction. You either hate it or you love it. You know, just don't do it for the sake of doing it. That would be my advice, but it's really the advice on anything, any industry that you might be in, is if you have passion about it. And then again, this like we talked earlier, this idea of learning from others, leaning on others, and gaining from their experiences. It's definitely a way to make you successful in what we do. And I would definitely share that with anybody coming into the industry. Is just, you know, listen to the advice of others and kind of just try to take in as much as you can, but at the same time, don't be afraid to voice new ideas and new ways of doing things. So having that you know, line of communication and openness to never stop learning and being willing to share maybe new ways of. I could give you just a handful of examples of some young leaders that have come into organization that might throw some ideas that at first you're like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, that's a great idea. Why haven't we thought about this? We've been doing this the same way for 30 years, and they have a great concept on how to make us better. So that's really what it's all about. That's what makes us successful. And then you just said it, by all means, the part that's important is just people over tasks. You know, if you about the people and really truly care about them and their families and you know, that it's more than just building bridges and building roads. We want to build their futures and in a place where they can you know, develop and become, again, not just better road builders, but better men and women. Then I think you can accomplish that. If you can find a job where you find that culture in the organization, then that's definitely then you've definitely hit the jackpot. You know, to be able to work in a place like that, I just feel very fortunate to be able to say that it's just, you know, great culture. Some of my best friends I work with every day, so it's just fun to come to work. Yeah, there's challenges. That doesn't mean it's all perfect. You know, there's gonna be days that you know, you're pulling your hair so you can see how much left, but at the same time, you know, if you enjoy the people you work with, if you surround yourself with better people than you that have great insight, then that's, I think, the key to be successful. And
challenges makes it interesting, and when you're sharing it with great people and like-minded people, then it becomes more interesting. Who wants to have a linear pathway?
Absolutely.
Dan, I have one last question for you, and I know we're running out of time, so we can wrap up. But we have this area in our area, these roads, and Coach and all of our local listeners will know what I'm talking about here. We call it the 390-490 split. It's where the 390 highway meets the 490 highway, and that area has been under construction for literally the last 50 years. Like, we've had construction. It's kind of an ongoing joke here in the Rochester area. It's like people have spent their whole careers working on the 390-490 split, and it just to add some lanes, and you know, it's just a constant effort, and people, a lot of people around here kind of think of that in a negative way, and they drive through that area kind of aggressively, like, more construction workers, you know. And I'm just thinking about the construction companies who must face such negative backlash for really doing their job, being there and doing something that I know might seem like it's taking forever, but that's part of the process. You as a leader, I'm sure, have to deal with some of that, especially in the Atlanta area. I mean, there are highways everywhere and there's so much construction going on. How do you deal with that, with a calm head on your shoulders and any sort of negative feedback or criticism that you receive and spin it in a positive way?
It's tough, right? Because our industry, I always say, it's like, if you're a doctor, when you go to a social event, you don't tell anybody you're a doctor because everybody's going to tell you,
Yep.
ask you questions. You don't tell many people in Atlanta you're in the road construction because you're probably holding them up in traffic at some point. So, no, I think it's education, right? I mean, it's, some people don't understand that, hey, there's other factors. The weather impacts construction, utilities, underground utilities, and all these things. So you try to share that with others, but without a doubt, there are some projects that take longer than others. But I think the key there is just, sharing with people kind of from your perspective, hey, these are the challenges that we're going through. And these are the items, the issues that are beyond your control that are impacting that every day. But believe me, it's very few times that we get calls, complimenting some of our employees, even though some of our employees do amazing things. And that's not to say we don't get some, we have some awesome people that work for us. In the last couple of years, we've had 2 of our employees that we've recognized for just on their way home or on their way to work, saving or helping save somebody's life that they've seen in an accident or something like that. Our culture is that of, hey, don't ever make the job important than something like that, right? One of the, when I first came to Matthews, I got a couple of letters, and they have a tradition. It started way before I ever started here. But if there was a funeral procession coming through a job, our employees take their hard hats off, kind of just in a moment of symbolism of respect for the family or for the person. And when you get letters like that, talking about your employees and what that meant for somebody in a time of need, that's the culture that we're trying to instill. We're not perfect, but I think if people are, when you drive through projects like that, and for your local listeners, if they came to Atlanta, they would find a few just like it. So don't feel bad. It's not just that project, but kind of getting a better understanding, right? If I get frustrated when I'm out somewhere and, trying to buy something and they don't have it, especially right now with all this supply chain and all that. I mean, it's not the person that's in the store's fault that maybe that's not there. So just kind of getting to know, hey, maybe learn something. Why is it that there's no bread in the grocery store? But it's not the cash registers persons, they didn't create the problem. So just kind of being sympathetic and understanding of others obviously helps in those kind of situations.
Yeah, and the new infrastructure bill is already out. So who knows, things will improve quickly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, Dan, my final question for you, since I have great respect for Dr. Kareem, and you're actually in a business that's been extremely male dominated, although that is starting to change. Can you share how the transition of having more females in construction company and how that's worked out for you?
That's a great question, and it is something we struggle with, to be honest with you. It is definitely a male dominated industry, and we would love to see more women in the workplace for us. I mean, we're missing huge opportunities. I think that starts really at home and in schools. I think sometimes, and I think schools are doing a better job of this. They've not really pushed STEM as much. They've not really educated. It's a great industry, great opportunities to have more women in the industry. We would love to see that. So how do we do that? We're currently reaching to high schools. We've got one person that's fully dedicated in our company to going out in not only high schools, but we need to start at the elementary and middle school level, just kind of teaching people about an industry and the opportunities that we have. We do have We have one of our paving foremen it's a lady. We're trying to get there, but we're behind us in industry compared to others. But I think it's several. We get there in several ways. Again, just educating people at a younger age of how great the industry is and what possibilities are there. But it's changing a little bit of that mindset, and really the need for employees in our industry in Georgia, and it will be. You just mentioned the infrastructure bill throughout the country is tremendous. But I just think that it's not seen as an industry that's, it's not software and it's not this, and maybe some of the other industries do a better job at painting a better picture, but our industry is so awesome. It's got so many great people that are down to earth, that just want to build a great place, a great community, and would love to see that. So maybe Dr. Karim can help us a little bit in that.
Yeah, definitely. And you can have mentorship program where female students in engineering could also be at your company and watch you work and get inspired.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. We have some amazing ladies that work with us. We had some in some internships here recently that are now full-time employees with us. And again, at the field level, wish we had more, but the ones we have do an amazing job.
Right. Thank you.
They bring a different perspective, and that caring part is definitely better with them than some of us stubborn guys.
That's I won't argue with that.
Yes. He is Dan Garcia from CW Matthews Contracting. Dan, I love how you really embodied a lot about of what our guests in the past, many of them have brought to the table as far as the relationship building, the servant leadership and that model. And of course, the constant self-improvement that you also, you have a growth mindset. I think that's really powerful. So those are some of the main takeaways I had. Before we wrap up, could you just, is there a way to get in touch with you, to reach you, to learn more about you and your company as well?
Sure. So as far as me, I'm definitely open again to interact, to get to know maybe somebody else in your network. So my email address would probably be the best way, D Garcia, Garcia at cwmatthews.com. Matthews is with 2 T's. Sometimes that prevents emails from coming through. But in our website again, at cwmatthews.com. It's a good way to kind of see what we do. But again, it doesn't capture, and we're actually going through a process. We're working with somebody to kind of tell our story better, because the culture that we have, the people that we have, we need to do a better job in highlighting that. So we're actually in the middle of the process of doing that with some marketing material in our website. So see that revamp, but by all means, reach out to me if I can help anybody in any way. I'd love to do that.
A company with a phenomenal culture, CW Matthews Contracting, really as a result of the man who leads it. It's been an honor to have you on, Dan. Thank you so much. And all of that information that Dan just shared with us, if you missed it, you don't have to rewind. You can just scroll down and we'll put it there in the notes section here of the episode as well. Dan, thank you so much for having for spending some time with us today. And Dr. Karim, Coach, any last thoughts here for you?
Dan, I just really appreciate you taking the time and sharing some great insight with our audience. So thanks so much. I look forward to staying in touch and keep up your great work.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that.
And thank you so much, Mr. Garcia. I really love those essence of trust, faith, attitude. You describe so many important aspects of leadership that we often neglect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Karim. Great talking to you and meeting you.
Take care.
And thank you as well for listening to the Limitless Leadership Lounge. Be sure to leave us a review if you haven't already on your favorite platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, whatever it may be. And we'll be back next week for another tri-generational conversation for emerging leaders.